Hi everyone. Welcome to the second part of chapter 1. That is the last lesson. So, in the first part, I did the introduction of the chapter, और line wise भी हमने समझा था till here, till we need to start from here itself, then from one thing to another. So, in the first part, we learnt about two major characters. First is Franz, who is a boy who studies in a French school in Alsace and Lorraine. And then we learned about Mr. M. Hamel, who is a French teacher who's been teaching there for the past 40 years. Next, we learned about how Persians occupied the two districts of France, that is Alsace and Lorraine. And then we came to know that an order had come from Berlin, uh, according to which the French teaching is going to stop from that day itself. And from the next day, a new German teacher is going to arrive, and the teaching of German language is going to be there in all the schools. So it was the last day of French teaching. Mr. M. Hamel told everybody that it was the last day, and what a thunderstruck it was for France himself, who thought of not going to school, not attending the school that day. तो यहाँ से आगे स्टार्ट करते हैं हमारे पार्ट 2 में। आई होप फर्स्ट पार्ट आप लोगों को अच्छे से समझ में आ गया होगा। अगर कोई भी डाउट्स रहते हैं आप लोगों के मन में, तो प्लीज राइट इन द कमेंट्स। आप क्वेश्चंस भी वहां पर पूछ सकते हैं। आई विल ट्राई टू आंसर ऑल एज आई कैन। ओके, सो लेट अस बिगिन the second part of this chapter from here itself, right? So I'll continue from right from not exactly from where we left, बट लिटिल बिफोर दैट, बिकॉज तभी हम लोग उसको कनेक्ट कर पाएंगे। तो पहले हमने थोड़ा सा पढ़ा था दैट एम हेमल ब्लेम्ड all the parents for not sending the children to school regularly, क्योंकि वो लोग उनको काम करने के लिए भेज देते थे। he also blamed himself for not taking all the lessons for the children, और अपने आप को ये कहकर उन्होंने ब्लेम किया कि मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम्स वो, नॉट मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम्स बट काफी टाइम्स वो बच्चों को अपने गार्डन में टू वाटर द प्लांट्स ही यूज्ड टू सेंड देम। काफी बारी जब वो अपने फ्रेंड्स के साथ फिशिंग करने के लिए जाते थे, ही यूज्ड टू गिव इट एन ऑफ। तो बिकॉज ऑफ ऑल दैट वो अपने आप को भी, खुद को भी ब्लेम करते हैं, राइट? सो लेट अस स्टार्ट फ्रॉम हियर। Then, from one thing to another, M. Hamel went on to talk of the French language, right? So, according to him, it was the most beautiful language in the world, right? So, this is the French map. Now, M. Hamel, from here itself, this is a very important part of our chapter, where he's going to talk about the French language, right? And the French language, according to him, is one of the most beautiful languages in the world. Uh, he says the clearest, the most logical, that we must guard it among us and never forget it. So basically, we can all say that for our own languages. अगर हम बोले हमारे हिसाब से हिंदी is the most beautiful language in the world, right? So M. Hamel, because obviously he was emotionally connected to the language, and he thought that it is the most beautiful and the most logical language in the world. So he gave that message to all his children. That is how he started, right? So because when people are enslaved as long as they hold fast to their language, it is as if they had the key to their prison. Then he opened a grammar and read us our lesson. So basically, he gave them a mantra, right? So what mantra was that? According to him, जब तक हम अपनी नेटिव लैंग्वेज को स्ट्रांगली पकड़ कर रखते हैं, तो अगर हम एक स्लेवरी के बॉन्ड में भी हैं, तो वो उसको उससे हमें बाहर निकाल लेती है, राइट? सो दैट इज व्हाट एम हैमल टोल्ड एवरीबडी, दैट उन सबको दे नीड टू होल्ड फास्ट टू देयर लैंग्वेज। ओके, देन ही ओपनड अ ग्रामर बुक और उनको वो पढ़ाने लगे। आई वाज अमेज्ड टू सी हाउ वेल आई अंडरस्टूड इट। तो भाई आज तक फ्रांस हैड नेवर पेड मच अटेंशन इन द क्लास, लाइक आप लोग भी क्लासरूम में ज्यादा अटेंशन देते नहीं हो। एंड व्हाट हैपेंस इज, जब एग्जाम टाइम आता है एंड यू रश टू स्टडी एवरीथिंग, और तब आप लोगों को ये रियलाइज होता है कि अच्छा हमें तो सब कुछ समझ में आ रहा है। क्यों समझ में आ रहा है? क्योंकि आप लोग उस टाइम ध्यान से पढ़ते हो। तो अगर आप लोग क्लासरूम में ही अच्छे से पढ़ लो तो फिर आपको वो प्रॉब्लम नहीं होगी, राइट? सो फ्रांस वाज अमेज्ड टू सी how well he understood everything that day. All he said seemed so easy. I think too that I had never listened so carefully, and that he had never explained everything with so much patience. It seemed almost as if the poor man wanted to give us all he knew before going away, and to put it all into our heads at one stroke. So basically, according to France, उसके हिसाब से उसको भी सब कुछ समझ में आ रहा है, लेकिन वो इस चीज का क्रेडिट अपने टीचर को भी दे रहा है दैट आज से पहले उसने कभी ऐसा नहीं लगा कि उसके टीचर ने भी बहुत पेशेंटली आज पढ़ाया है ना उसको। शायद इतने पेशेंटली आज से पहले उन्होंने कभी नहीं पढ़ाया, राइट? तो उसको सब कुछ समझ में आ रहा है, और ऐसा लग रहा है जैसे कि आज आखिरी दिन सर उनको सब कुछ पढ़ा देते हैं, जितने उनके अंदर नॉलेज है वो सारी नॉलेज वो चाहते हैं कि वो अपने स्टूडेंट्स को दे दे। क्लियर? ओके। After the grammar, we had a lesson in writing. So this is the third thing. At the very beginning, उन्होंने सुनना स्टार्ट किया था. He was listening to the previous day's homework, and then he read something out of the grammar, and then there is this writing session. Okay. That day, MML had new copies for us, written in a beautiful round hand. France Elsace, France Elsace. They looked like little flags floating everywhere in the schoolroom, hung from the rod at the top of the desks. You ought to have seen how everyone set to work and how quiet it was. The only sound was the scratching of pens over the paper. Once, some beetles flew in, but nobody paid any attention to them, not even the littlest ones, who worked right on tracing their fishhooks, as if that was French too. On the roof of the pigeons cooed very low, and I thought to myself, will they make them sing in German, even the pigeons? So basically, in writing, they had new copies, and at the top of the copies, it was written France Alsace, France Alsace, and then they had to copy that down all the way down to the very last. और अभी वो सब लोग अपने पेपर पर ऐसे करके लिख रहे हैं. सो द ओनली साउंड इज द स्क्रैचिंग ऑफ पेन ऑन टू द पेपर. क्लियर? नेक्स्ट, देर वर सर्टन पिजन्स. द पिजन्स वो बैठे हुए हैं ऊपर रूफटॉप के ऊपर, and they were cooing, right? They were making their noise. So Franz, just because he's just a boy, he was thinking to himself, when the Germans will come here, will these French pigeons, will these pigeons be forced to sing in German language because they are French pigeons? वो हमारे पिजन्स है ना, शायद वो फ्रेंच बोलते हो, राइट? तो क्या वो भी जर्मन बोलेंगे या उनको फोर्स किया जाएगा जर्मन बोलने के लिए? काइंड ऑफ अ फनी थॉट जो कि उसके दिमाग में आ रहा है अभी. ओके. So whenever I looked up from my writing, I saw M. Hamill sitting motionless in his chair and gazing first at one thing, then at another, as if he wanted to fix in his mind just how everything looked in that little schoolroom. Fancy. For 40 years, he had been there in the same place, with his garden outside the window and his class in front of him. So obviously, he looked at his teacher many a times, right? And while looking at his teacher, he saw that his teacher was seeing everything, right? और ऐसा लग रहा था जैसे कि वो अपनी मेमोरी में सब चीजों को कैद करके रखना चाहते हैं, राइट? तो वो बेंचेस को देख रहे हैं, वो उस क्लासरूम को देख रहे हैं, वो विंडोज को देख रहे हैं. all this have evolved one while he was here, right? वो बेंचेस उनके होते हुए यहाँ पर आए हैं, ये बिल्डिंग शायद उनके होते हुए बनी होगी, ये विंडोज वो यहाँ पर थे तब बनी होंगी, एंड एवरीथिंग, राइट? So he was looking down at every single thing which was there, and he was trying to see things by himself. He was trying to capture every single memory that he could, right? Just like that, only the desks and benches have been worn smooth. The walnut trees in the garden were taller, and the hop vine that he had planted himself twined about the windows to the roof. How it must have broken his heart to leave it all. Poor man, to hear his sister moving about in the room above, packing their trunks, for they must leave the country next day. अगले दिन उनको जाना था, राइट? तो एम हेमल के लिए कितना पेनफुल होगा जब वो ये देख रहे हैं, जो जो ट्रीज उन्होंने वहां पर लगाए थे वो ऑलमोस्ट डबल हो गए हैं टिल द रूफ टॉप। उनको आवाजें आ रही हैं उनके रूम से कि उनकी सिस्टर सब कुछ पैक कर रहे हैं, एंड वो पैक करके उनको रख रहे हैं। तो ये सारी की सारी चीजें उनके लिए बहुत पेनफुल थी। और फ्रांस इस चीज को फील कर रहा है, बिकॉज ही इज मीन वाइल ही इज राइटिंग ही इज ऑल्सो लुकिंग एट हिज टीचर, है ना, इन बिटवीन। तो दैट्स वाई, but he had the courage to hear every lesson to the very last. After the writing, he had a lesson in history, and then the babies chanted their ba bee bee boo boo. Down there at the back of the room, old Hauser had put on his spectacles and, holding his primer in both hands, spelled the letters with them. You could see that he too was crying. His voice trembled with emotion, and it was so funny to hear him that we all wanted to laugh and cry. Ah, how well I remembered it, the last lesson. So basically, um, he had mixed emotions. I won't say mixed emotions, but क्योंकि बच्चा है तो उसको नहीं पता कि यहाँ पर क्या करना क्या है। ऑल्दो ही वॉज फीलिंग सैड, बट ही वॉज नॉट फीलिंग लाइक क्राइंग। ओके, उसको रोना तो नहीं आ रहा है, लेकिन ही उसको बुरा लग रहा है। बट द ओल्डर पीपल, द एल्डर पीपल, राइट, जो लोग एम हैमल को बहुत सालों से जानते थे, उनके पास स्टूडेंट्स, राइट, द ones who came there to pay tribute to him, and they started crying. They were sitting at the back, right? Sorry. So they started crying, and बच्चों के लिए वो चीज बड़ी फनी होती है जब बड़े लोग ऐसे वहां पर बैठे हैं, रो रहे हैं। उसको समझ नहीं आ रहा कि वो क्या करे, सब कुछ इतना इतना सीरियस माहौल है और कोई ऐसे रो रहा है। उसको हंसी भी आ रही है, लेकिन ऑब्वियसली वो वहां पर हंस नहीं सकता है, राइट? तो इसीलिए वो कह रहा है, बिकॉज इट वॉज ऑल मिक्स्ड इमोशंस, सो हाउ वेल ही रिमेम्बर्ड दैट हिज लास्ट लेसन। ऑल एट वंस द चर्च क्लॉक स्ट्रक 12, तो 12 बज गए इसी तरीके से। And then the Angelus at the same time, at the same moment, the triumphs of the Persians returning from drill sounded under our windows. M. Hamel stood up, very pale, in his chair. I never saw him look so tall. So 12 बज गए, and the Persian soldiers, they were drilling. वो अपनी practices करके, training करके, they seem to come back, and उनके footsteps सुने जा सकते थे from the window. M. Hamel, he stood up, and according to Franz, he had never seen him look so tall. वो बहुत proudly वहां पर खड़े हुए थे, right? My friends, said he, उन्होंने start की अपनी final speech। उन्होंने कहा, दोस्तों, and he was about to say something. He said I, but something choked him. He could not go on. Obviously he was uh, filled with emotions. uh, uh, मन बहुत भरा भरा हो गया था उनका, तो वो बोल नहीं पाए, चोकिंग हो रही थी उनके गले में। देन ही टर्न टू द ब्लैक बोर्ड, और इस वजह से, क्योंकि सबके सामने रो नहीं सकते थे, टीचर हैं, तो उन्होंने अपना फेस ब्लैक बोर्ड की तरफ टर्न कर लिया। took a piece of chalk, and bearing on with all his might, he wrote as large as he could, Viva la France, right? And so what he did was he turned towards the board, took a piece of chalk, and wrote Viva la France onto the board. That means long live France, or long live French. So that is his final word to the students. Then he stopped and leaned his head against the wall. Like, so it was a wall and he leaned against it, है ना, अपना सर वॉल के ऊपर रख लिया। And without a word, he made a gesture to us with his hand. School is dismissed. You may go. So अब बोल तो पा नहीं रहे थे, because he was filled with emotions. उनको रोना आ रहा था, तो उन्होंने हाथ से ही gesture करके उन्हें बोला that the class is over, and you may go. Right? So this was your entire chapter. Uh, Please tell me in the comments if you have understood it well, if the explanation was understandable, अच्छे से समझ में आ गया आप लोगों को। कोई भी डाउट होगा, कोई भी क्वेश्चन होगा, एज आई ऑलरेडी टोल्ड यू, आप प्लीज पूछें। प्लीज बताएं कि और क्या चीजें बेटर की जा सकती हैं, सो आई विल डू इट बेटर द नेक्स्ट टाइम। दीज काइंड ऑफ These kind of videos are really going to help you in your revision while you'll be preparing for your exams. So make sure you watch them, you subscribe to the channel, and you share these videos to all of your friends, all those who are there in class standard 12, जिनकी किसी भी तरीके से इससे हेल्प हो सकती है. सो आई विल बी रियली ग्लैड अगर आप लोग ऐसा करते हैं तो. थैंक यू सो मच एंड गॉड ब्लेस यू ऑल. Hope to see you again in the next videos. Thank you, and make sure you subscribe to the channel.